What if there was a plant growing quietly in backyards across America that could kill pain faster than most over-the-counter pills, and the government stepped in and tried to make it disappear? No, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is real. This happened. And millions of Americans are still talking about it. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear might completely change how you think about natural medicine. Welcome back to Homestead Roots, the place where we dig into natural living, self-sufficiency, and the kind of knowledge that used to be passed down from generation to generation before modern life got in the way. Today we are talking about one of the most controversial plants in American history. A plant that has been used for centuries for pain relief, energy, and even mood support. A plant that the FDA tried to ban outright. And a plant that millions of Americans are still using today despite everything. We are talking about Kratom. By the end of this video you will know exactly what it is, why people use it, what the FDA did and why, and what you need to know before you ever consider using it yourself. Let's get into it. Section 1. What exactly is Kratom? Let's start from the very beginning because a lot of people have heard the name but have no idea what this plant actually is. Kratom is a tropical tree. Its scientific name is Mitragyna speciosa and it grows naturally in Southeast Asia, particularly in countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Papua New Guinea. It belongs to the same plant family as coffee, which is actually a fun fact that surprises most people. For hundreds of years, farmers and laborers in these countries would chew the leaves of the kratom tree or brew them into a simple tea. They used it to get through long hard days of physical work. It gave them energy, it dulled physical pain, and it lifted their mood. Think of it like this. Imagine you are a farmer working in a field for 12 hours straight in tropical heat. Your back aches. Your legs are sore. You reach for a few leaves from a nearby tree, brew them into a tea, and within the hour you feel better. That was everyday life for many people in Southeast Asia for generations. Kratom started making its way into the United States in the early 2000s. And once Americans discovered what it could do, interest spread fast. Section 2. Why people use it and what it actually does. So what does Kratom actually do in the body? This is where it gets really interesting. Kratom leaves contain natural compounds called alkaloids. The two main ones are mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine. These alkaloids interact with receptors in the brain, specifically the same receptors that respond to opioids like morphine and codeine. Now before that word opioid scares you away, let's put it in context. At low doses, Kratom tends to act more like a stimulant. People report feeling more alert, more focused, and more energetic. At higher doses it acts more like a sedative and a pain reliever. Because of this, millions of Americans started turning to Kratom for things like chronic back pain, joint pain, anxiety, fatigue, and even as a tool to manage withdrawal symptoms from prescription opioids and alcohol. That last point is huge. During the height of the opioid crisis in America, a significant number of people reported using Kratom to help wean themselves off far more dangerous drugs. Some called it a lifeline. Others called it a bridge back to normal life. Have you ever heard of someone using a plant to recover from addiction? It sounds almost too simple. But for thousands of people, that was their real experience. Section 3. Why the FDA got involved. So if people were finding relief and some were even using it to escape opioid addiction, why did the FDA step in? In 2016 the DEA announced plans to place Kratom on the Schedule 1 controlled substances list. Schedule 1 is the same category as heroin. That announcement caused immediate uproar across the country. Hundreds of thousands of Americans flooded the DEA and their congressional representatives with letters, calls, and petitions. Veteran groups, chronic pain patients, and recovering addicts all came forward to say that Kratom had genuinely helped them when nothing else did. It was one of the largest public responses to a proposed drug scheduling in American history. The DEA backed down temporarily. But the FDA continued pushing hard against Kratom. The FDA's main concerns were these. First, Kratom was being marketed and sold without any clinical trials or approved medical use. Second, there were reports of people becoming dependent on it. Third, there were a small number of reported deaths associated with Kratom use, though most involved other substances taken at the same time. The FDA issued import alerts, seized shipments, and sent strong warning letters to companies selling Kratom products. They never succeeded in making it fully illegal at the federal level, but they made it very difficult to research, buy, and sell. Section 4, where Kratom stands today legally. Here is the current situation, and this is important for you to know. Kratom is not federally banned in the United States as of today. However, the legal status varies significantly from state to state and even city to city. States where Kratom is fully legal include Texas, Florida, Georgia, and many others. States where it is completely banned include Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Wisconsin. Some states have regulations around it, requiring age verification or specific labeling. The American Kratom Association, a consumer advocacy group, has been working with state legislatures to pass what they call the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, which would regulate Kratom similarly to dietary supplements rather than banning it outright. So the battle is still very much ongoing. And the landscape can change, which means if this topic interests you, it is worth checking the current laws in your specific state. Section 5, the homesteading angle, growing Kratom yourself. Now here is something that might really interest those of you in the homesteading and backyard gardening community. Kratom is a plant. A tree, actually. And like many tropical plants, it can be grown in certain parts of the United States. Kratom grows best in warm, humid climates with rich, slightly acidic soil. If you live in Florida, Hawaii, southern Texas, or other warm southern states, it is possible to grow Kratom outdoors. In cooler climates, some people have had success growing smaller plants indoors in containers with grow lights and controlled humidity. The tree can grow quite tall in its natural habitat, but when grown in containers or cooler climates it tends to stay much more manageable. It likes lots of water, good drainage, and warm temperatures. It does not tolerate frost at all. Now growing Kratom for personal use falls into that same legal gray area we discussed. In states where it is legal, personal cultivation is generally permitted. In states where it is banned, growing it would also be prohibited. But for those of you who love growing unusual and medicinal plants, Kratom is a fascinating addition to any serious herb garden, where it is legally permitted, of course. Section 6, what the science actually says. Let's talk about what researchers have actually found, because this is where honest conversation matters most. The scientific research on Kratom is still in early stages, largely because the FDA stance has made clinical research difficult to fund and conduct. However, existing studies have found that the alkaloids in Kratom do interact with opioid receptors in the brain, confirming what users have reported for years. Some research suggests Kratom may have genuine potential as a pain management tool, an anti-inflammatory, and possibly even an aid for opioid withdrawal. A survey published in the journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence found that the majority of Kratom users reported using it for pain, anxiety, and depression, and most reported that it was effective. On the risk side, research also confirms that regular use can lead to dependence. Stopping after long-term heavy use can produce withdrawal symptoms like irritability, muscle aches, and sleep issues. There have also been concerns about liver effects in rare cases with very high doses. The honest truth is that Kratom is neither a miracle cure nor the dangerous drug the FDA has sometimes portrayed it as. Like most powerful natural substances, it sits somewhere in the middle. Potentially very useful. Also deserving of caution and respect. I want to pause here for a second and ask you something directly. Had you heard of Kratom before this video? Maybe you know someone who uses it, or maybe this is the very first time you are hearing about it. Drop a comment below and let me know. I genuinely read every single comment on this channel, and I would love to know your thoughts on this one. Section 7, what you should know before considering it. Whether you are curious about Kratom for pain relief, energy, or just because you love knowing about powerful plants, here are the most important things to keep in mind. Number 1. Always check your state and local laws first. There is no point going further if it is not legal where you live. Number 2. If you are on any prescription medications, especially antidepressants, blood thinners, or opioid-based pain medications, talk to a doctor before considering Kratom. The interactions are not fully understood and caution is genuinely important here. Number 3. Quality matters enormously. The Kratom market is largely unregulated, which means product quality varies wildly. If you ever choose to try it, look for vendors who provide third-party lab testing results. Number 4. Start low. The effects of Kratom are highly dose-dependent. What feels energizing at a low dose can feel overwhelming at a high dose. Less is almost always more, especially at the beginning. Number 5. It is not for everyone and it is not for every situation. Kratom is not a replacement for professional medical care. If you have serious chronic pain or are dealing with addiction, please work with a healthcare provider alongside any natural remedies you explore. So let's bring it all together. Kratom is a Southeast Asian plant with a long history of traditional use. It contains natural compounds that interact with pain and mood receptors in the brain. Millions of Americans have used it for pain relief, energy, and even opioid withdrawal support. The FDA has fought hard against it due to concerns about dependence, safety, and lack of clinical data. It is currently legal at the federal level but banned in several states. Research is ongoing and the truth about this plant likely sits somewhere between miracle and danger. And for those in the homesteading community, it is a genuinely fascinating plant to learn about, and in legal states, to potentially grow. Knowledge is power. And part of living a self-sufficient natural lifestyle is educating yourself about every tool nature has made available, understanding both the benefits and the risks, and making informed decisions for yourself and your family. If this video opened your eyes to something new, go ahead and give it a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are looking for exactly this kind of honest, practical information. If you are not yet subscribed to Homestead Roots, now is a great time to join our community. We cover everything from backyard gardening and medicinal herbs to natural living and self-sufficiency tips every single week. And if you want to keep learning about powerful medicinal plants you can grow at home, the next video is waiting for you right now. I will see you there.